start to lift, and then it's like, okay, good. Finally, I'm feeling better. There's so many things I gotta do. I'm gonna get this done, this done, this done, this done, this done. You start working on and doing all the things, and then you find yourself in lots of pain, exhausted again, needing to recover and building in recovery days after you've done all the things. That becomes a trap that we get in terms of burnout and also in terms of chronic fatigue. And so I want to talk about that today. And I want to talk about how we can start to move out of that place of repeating that pattern over and over and over again. So welcome back. I'm Virginia. I'm a licensed mental health therapist who was recently diagnosed with not just one, two autoimmune disorders. So I definitely understand that burnout process inside and out, unfortunately. So today I woke up this morning. I found myself, did a workout, felt pretty good, had some good energy. And I was like, okay, this is great. I'm getting my video done. And I have my second iron infusion later today. So I'm like, okay, this is good. I've got some good energy. Things are going really well. And I just started to think of my mother. And as I'm thinking of my mother, what I have watched her do is the same thing I've watched so many Black women do. Is they'll work themselves till they get sick, or they'll work themselves till they burn completely out. They're no use to anybody, and they'll recover from it. And then as soon as they get a burst of energy, they go back and do the same thing again. My kids were just talking about, well, you know what we should do? We should make something for grandmother. We should make her something to eat and bring it over. I'm like, absolutely, we should definitely do that. And they're like, but she's just going to end up giving it to other people. She's going to give it to Papa, and she's going to give it to our uncle. And so, what's the point of us even making something for her? She's just going to give it away. And so I had a conversation with my girls this morning as I've been in this process of trying to figure out, how do I break off some of these generational strongholds, patterns of being able to use energy? I'm trying to give my kids a different pattern without criticizing the women who've come before us. Because the women who've come before us, there's no words to be able to explain the sacrifices that they made for me and for my family and for all the generations that have come after them. There's no way to be able to quantify that with simple words. And so I don't want to criticize their sacrifice. At the same time, we're living in a different age. And so using the same pattern that they had is not necessarily going to work for us the same way. It ends up in sickness, it ends up in illness, and it ends up in broken relationships. And so we have to find a pattern that is adapting and honoring with those before us that they gave us, but also is honoring of where we are today and what actually fits. And so even as I'm saying that, I'm thinking of this illustration, and a lot of people may be familiar with this illustration of the lady with the ham. And so what I'm thinking about is this lady that is a newlywed, and she just got married, and it's a holiday like Christmas or something like that. And so she's getting this ham, and what she does is she cuts the ends off of the ham, puts it in the pan, and sticks it in the oven. And so her husband asked her, like, hey, why do you do it that way? And if you heard this illustration, just fast forward 3 minutes. But hey, why are you doing it that way? And she says, I don't know. This is the way that my mom has always done it. So her mom was still living, so she had an opportunity to get on the phone, call up mom. Hey, mom. She's like, you know how we make ham for Christmas? And mom's like, yeah, I know how we make that ham for Christmas. And then the daughter's like, okay, do you know how we criticize, judge, all that kind of stuff to other folks. Because if that's the way that we're trying to change the generations, what we do is we end up recreating it some other way by criticizing ourselves in some or judging ourselves in some other sort of way. So that's definitely not how we change and break patterns. We need to do that with some compassion. So I have compassion for my grandmother for watching her live her life the way that she did because she had to do it that way. That's how society was set up. That's the only way she's going to be able to take care of her family. She's in a much different place and situation that I'm in. Her husband died when her younger kids were still pretty young, and she was single mom. She was single mom with 7 kids. So it makes sense to me why my grandmother worked and did things the way that she did things. She also did things the way that she did them in a different day and age. Same thing for my mom. My mom had to do the situation because of where she was at, the position that she was in. She didn't have any other options or choices. It was like her or nothing. Taking a look at me, a lot of times I will operate that same way. I have really worked a lot over the years to say, you know what, I don't need to burn it at all the ends. The generations before me, they did that well, they succeeded, they handled business, and it's literally making me sick. I can't do it. I won't do it. So, with that being said, sometimes when we slow down and start trying to offer some compassion to everybody, including ourselves, this can be a place where we get some production guilt, where we start judging ourselves from not being a human being, not feeling like, okay, I have to do to be worth something. We don't get an opportunity to just be a human being. Especially as Black women, rarely ever are we seen as human beings. Where we get to just be, and we have worth, we have value. We don't always get that. And so sometimes we're having to reclaim things that are our birthrights that society didn't necessarily give us, and that our family didn't necessarily give us, because we were taught something different, because something different was needed at a different point in time. We can go back 400 years, 300 years. When Black women in the United States were a commodity. We were only worth what we could do. So it makes sense to me why not only family timelines, but also sometimes our nervous systems, like I'll be working with my clients, and most people think I can't slow down. I can't. If I slow down, then that's when all the thoughts catch up to me. Or if I slow down, it feels weird, or it feels like I'm waiting for the other shoe to drop. A lot of times when we finally get the energy, we're finally feeling better, we're waiting for the other shoe to drop. And then we create this self-fulfilling prophecy of overworking and then burning out again. And our bodies can only take so much cortisol. Our bodies can only take so much adrenaline, y'all. Which reminds me of a National Geographic clip that I watched there. Whenever I'm trying to wind down and calm down, one of the things that I love just consistently is I love taking a look at excuse me. I love taking a look at some nature. I love taking a look at either animals on TV or just even from my back porch, just watching the birds play or the squirrels, what have you. Like, I enjoy that. That is calming to my nervous system. And so sometimes when I don't want to be outside because I'm allergic to the outside, I am literally allergic. So if you have not been following to me in my videos, you'll hear about some of how the autoimmune disorders affect me in terms of histamine responses and literally being allergic to outside. So if I'm not going to be outside on my back porch just kind of chilling or at the beach or something like that, or at a park with my kids, what I am going to be doing is I'm going to be watching National Geographic. I like it because it's predictable, it's relatively calming, there's no surprises, usually, and I was watching it one day, and as I was watching it, there was a cheetah, and the cheetah was chasing, like, I don't know, it was like an antelope or a gazelle, I don't remember what it was. But anyways, this cheetah then she's darting across the screen and going like this. I mean, like, she is just running, okay? And she's nailing it. She's graceful. She's beautiful. She's just doing her thing. I'm like, get it, Cheetah. Get it, girl. And then the narrator comes on, and of course, the narrator has some sort of really smooth voice, and that's just really lovely and draws you in, but doesn't overly regulate your nervous system usually. And so the narrator is on, and the narrator is saying, yes, the cheetah is the fastest of all land animals. And I'm like, I already know that. This is what I do. And he's saying, oh, and then the cheetah is a sprinter. And so the cheetah can only run fastest distances for so long. And so much, yeah, I already know this too. So I'm just chilling, watching the cheetah, chasing the gazelle back and forth, and I'm just really enjoying it. And my nervous system's regulated. And then all of a sudden, I see something happen a little bit differently. All of a sudden, the cheetah kind of slows down. It's just breathing really hard. And I'm like, what the heck is going on here? And then the cheetah goes, and it's like collapses. And I'm like, what is happening to this cheetah? I'm glued in the screen at this point. And she just like collapsed on this banana floor. And so the narrator comes back on, and the narrator says, yes, she could only sprint for so long until she has to stop. And if she were to keep going, this is the narrator, if she were to keep going, she'll go into cardiac arrest, or her brain will overshoot and she'll get brain damage. I was like, what? I have never heard this before. Never heard this before. And all I could think about was all of my clients, all the couples that I see, all the individuals that I see for trauma work and for ketamine work and psychedelics. And the only thing that I could think about is like, this is what we're doing. This is what we're programmed to do in industrialized societies, particularly Black women. Lots of us are programmed to do it in different ways. Well, Black women, we got extra helping and extra serving and stuff like that. When we overwork ourselves until literally it affects our brain, our mind, our mental health, and it also literally affects our hearts. So a lot of the research in terms of ACEs study, ACEs, ACES, takes a look at adverse reactions in childhood and childhood trauma. And the higher your ACE score, which you can look that up online, ACES, by the time you're hitting your 30s and 40s, that midlife, it can predict the type of health conditions that you're going to experience. So some of this stuff, it doesn't really matter so much if you change it right now in your adulthood. Some of this stuff, those epigenetics, they got turned on in childhood, which sets us up for later on chronic illnesses. So if I'm catching you early in your 20s, please slow down. Girl, please slow down. Find some sort of way of being able to have a different path, to not cut in the same way, to not run yourself ragged just because you can. Please keep it playing to the other side. It is not fun. It's not fun having, I don't know, 6, 7, 8 specialists. It is not fun. So if you have any opportunity to catch some of this stuff before you end up to where you know what, then please and thank you. Please do that. But if you're here and you're just here, like, hey, I'm here too. I'm right here with you. And so I have to make sure that I'm stopping that pattern for myself. I'm not continuing to perpetuate that same pattern of burning it out, where the cheetah would have stopped a long time ago. That I am catching myself over. So how do you do that? Number one of the ways that we do that is by, if you're going to give yourself something that is a high cortisol level kind of activity, where you get to gear yourself up to do a thing, Sometimes we need to do that. I get that. We operate in the real world. We need to do that. After that thing, make sure that you're also scheduling some time for your nervous system to rest. So what am I talking about? Well, today I not only had, like I said, I did a little workout this morning. It was great because it helps me maintain my energy. The other thing that I have later on today is my iron infusion, which probably for a lot of y'all are like, how is that a big deal? That's nothing. I have learned infusion life. If I'm having an infusion, that means I need to rest and to make sure that my nervous system is receptive to the infusion. If it's not receptive to the infusion, I tend to get sicker. My downtime is longer. I don't feel good. Like my step, it's awful. No, it's just awful. So I have learned that if I'm getting an infusion, after I get that infusion, I am going to rest the rest of the day. And so also the first part of this day, I don't want to like, oh, I gotta get this done, because if I'm doing all of those things, I'm not going to be in a position of rest. I'm going to be in a position of collapse. I don't want to get an infusion and collapse cheetah because what? That's a place where your body is not healed. That's a place where your body's not going to accept an infusion either. So how does this work if you don't have to have an infusion? I'm so happy for you. That's not the life you have to live. You still need to get some time for your nervous system to relax. This reminds me of when my oldest was in cross country. She would be in these races, and sometimes there were community events that we would go to where it wasn't necessarily a race for the kids, but it was just an opportunity for the kids to run, and it's fun. There's music and food and all kinds of different things for the kids to have fun, and they get to run, and that helps them with their cardiovascular fitness. So I'll never forget, we were at this one event, and there were a bunch of old people. My kids were like, what are these old people doing here? Maybe they're here to cheer the kids on. But the old people had numbers on them because they were going to run. It's a marathon. They're going to run. And my kids are like, what are they doing? This is crazy. Those old people are about to run. And you should have seen the work on the old people's faces. They were probably the age of my parents. And I'm just sitting down just chatting with them, and they're like, yeah, they said, this is something that they enjoy doing because the running feels good for their nervous system. It keeps them going and helps them feel productive and good. But what they really enjoy doing is they enjoy watching the kids, especially like elementary school, middle school age kids. He says, because what they'll do is they'll outpace all the old people. They're running. Here they go. They're driving the bunny, right? And you probably already hear where the story is going. The older people have a good pace about them. They're knowing exactly which rhythm that they're going to be running in. And so in probably the first third of that race, the kids have outpaced them. But slow and steady, they've caught up to those kids, and they've passed those kids, and they're just going at a steady pace. With that same little smirk on their face, right? So, I'm not going to bring up both things today. I know that my body is going to be at a place where it needs to rest, it needs to incorporate, and on a cellular level, receive the infusion in the beginning. I'm grateful for that, and I'm happy for that, and I'm all for it. And so, I don't want my body to be in collapse mode beforehand, because if it's in collapse mode, it's not going to be in healing mode later. So, what does that look like for you? Again, if you don't have an infusion, which happy for you that you don't, we need to pace our day. So, having some things that are a little bit more high octane, a little bit more high cortisol, but then also make sure that we're directly scheduling some activities that are lower cortisol. So, that could look like maybe getting up in the morning, doing some sort of a gentle stretch, or doing some sort of a workout or weight training or a walk, doing some sort of movement first thing in the morning that feels good for your nervous system and that your healthcare providers have said, yep, this is something good for you that we want you to do. Okay? Starting off with that, making sure you're starting off with some good fuel this morning. Both of my kids were a little bit irritable this morning, and the first thing that I asked them was, did you drink water? They said yes. My next question was, did you eat? They said yes. I said, what did you eat? They said, pizza from yesterday. Well, I don't have anything against pizza for breakfast. I really don't. But I think it's important to take a look at the foods that you're eating and notice how your nervous system is responding to it. They made homemade pizza yesterday, which is great, and I'm happy for them. And they ate it this morning, and both of them were irritable. There wasn't a lot of protein. There was some healthy fats, not a lot of healthy fats. A lot of dough. And they were both irritable. And I'm like, I get that. I get that for y'all. You might want to have some protein inside out. Because that was a lot of carbs. And, maybe a protein with a healthy fat with it. They just weren't feeling the best. They went on ahead, did that. We did exercise this morning together. They were still kind of a little bit in the mood. We did some hugs. I also check in with them. Did you drink water? And they're like, yeah. How much water did you drink? Y'all, I'm getting in a liter in the morning before I'm waking awake and go, because that's what my body and my nervous system needs. Again, talk to your healthcare provider. Find out what your providers say works best for you and your nervous system. If you have a traditional healthcare provider, I highly recommend also seeing somebody that is in tune with herbs and supplements. So seeing an herbalist, seeing an iridologist, seeing some of these other forms of medicine and health, functional health, is important as well. An acupuncturist. See some of these other folks as well, so you can have a more comprehensive plan in terms of what your health looks like. So I'm starting off, and then my next question for them is, did y'all take your supplements? They're like, yes. One of them said yes, one of them said no. I was like, okay. Because again, I'm trying to give them a different format, a different formula. Where this is what I've seen works in your body. This is what you need. And each of my kids have different supplements that they take. They don't take the same thing. I don't take the same things that they do. My body has a lot more needs than their bodies do. But we're all taking what we need individually. So making sure that they do those things, getting those hugs in, getting some touch in, talking to them, regulating with each other. And by the time we did all that, everybody was in a much better headspace. But the pizza for breakfast and just exercising, that just wasn't cutting it. We needed a more holistic approach for our morning. And those are the things that they did. And so on Mondays, or for New Orleans, one of the things that we do on Mondays is we usually eat red beans and rice. Like that's tradition. That's just what we do. So my kids don't necessarily like red beans, and my husband surely doesn't like red beans. He's not from New Orleans. So I just told him, like, let's have some kind of bean. Why? Number one, that's tradition for me and for my family. Number two, it's a cost-effective dinner. Number three, it is easy. It is easy to do energy-wise, but it is also easy to do in terms of planning and mental headspace. I'm not dealing with the dreaded question of what are we going to have for dinner. I'm not dealing with that. On Mondays, you already know, we're going to have some kind of bean. That's good. That's going to be good. Okay? So, I'm making some decisions right off the bat in terms of how am I going to coast through my day. Making some decisions that are going to be good for me that will require a little bit more energy. Like doing some weight training, that requires a little bit more energy, but I've been doing it long enough that I get a lot more energy back than what I initially put in. So, making sure that I have that done, and then after that, I, as a mom, I'm taking some time to make sure my household is regulated, and I'm checking in with my kids, especially their nervous systems, because they're kids. That's my responsibility to make sure that I'm available to help them to regulate. So, I'm teaching them how to not burn out, how to pace themselves. They have to read a book for the summer for school, and so I'm like, okay, you need to make sure. I know you have other books. My kids are readers, y'all. They love reading. You read the books. The school requires them to read them. I'm like making sure that you're pacing yourself. Y'all are fast readers. You're really great readers. Read a chapter. You don't have to do it every single day, but read a chapter this morning. Get some of that sunshine in. These are just some of these pieces that we're doing in the very beginning. So they're not trying to race and rush to hurry up and book report or what have you. I'm teaching them to pace themselves as well. So when somebody tells you you're burned out, oh, you just need to pace yourself. As you can hear, a lot more is required instead of just this mental, easy solution of pacing yourself. It requires training. It requires a multifaceted approach that is individualized to you. It requires regulation. It requires taking a look at the tasks you have available to you that day and make sure that if you have some higher octane activities, some higher cortisol activities, you also have some lower cortisol activities like reading, like walking, like cooking. For some folks, is a lower cortisol. Like when I'm making beans and rice, that's lower cortisol for me. That's something that we can easily do, and the cooking kind of happens by itself. So I hope that if you have heard something today that was maybe confirming of a path that you've been on, or maybe confirming of some things that I know I need to make some changes. This is what I need to do. My name is Virginia. I'm a licensed mental health therapist. If you have not subscribed to my channel, I do ask that you would take that time to do that. I really appreciate that. Also, I want to be able to just encourage you to please do something today that takes really good care of you, and to take sometimes today also to take care of others in your life. So, till next time, see you. Bye.